Welcome back. We're back to focusing on the economy, and we're joined this morning by Mr. Olabisi Ogunjobi, OON, the immediate past chairman, board of directors, Federal Mortgage Bank. He's also he's an economist as well as a former senior researcher with the CBN. Morning, and thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
Well, focusing on the economy, many solutions have been proffered, suggestions as well in terms of how we should approach to improve the state of the economy. But you've also been observing what has been going on and where we are. Let's get to hear from you. First and foremost, what's your impression of how we got ourselves to where we are?
Well, I think, let me say it's a great pleasure to be with you this morning. I think we cannot be talking of today without having a hindsight look at what has happened in the past, in the sense that the economy develops over time, and the current situation is a factor of many issues which had first, there has been the neglect of the agricultural sector. When in 1971, when I was in the Central Bank of Nigeria, the same issue arose as to whether Naira should even be a convertible currency. The argument was, do we have the required social economic background to have a convertible currency? Given the dependence or high dependence on imports, can we maintain the Naira rate that will arise because of the heavy demand, on the Naira?
Did the argument sail through?
Sorry?
Did the argument succeed?
Yes, the argument did not succeed at that time because we know Nigerian economy cannot sustain virtually a convertible currency. But what we have done today is that we have allowed everybody access to the Naira, to the dollar, not just through the institutions, but on cash basis. I recall in those days, if you want to travel, you want your BTA, you get a traveler's check. You don't get dollar cash. And that is what is happening today, that the dollar cash has taken over from the normal institutional processes of trade.
But would you agree with those who will still lay the blame on CBN?
Well, I think the question whether you lay blame on the CBN or not is not here or there. It's neither here nor there.
It won't help us
we
identify.
Are looking at when you talk of what the Naira is today, you are looking at both the fiscal and the monetary policies. Both of them have to go together. I think there has been a disconnect in the last 1 year between the fiscal policy and the monetary policy. As of today, for example, we don't have a budget. This is March. If you don't have a budget, no matter what your monetary policy is, there's going to be a disconnect and therefore greater pressure.
But we've had budgets in time past. Did we fare any better?
Sorry?
We've had budgets in years past.
Yes.
Did we fare any better?
No, in the years past, the situation was completely different. For example, on the price of oil. With the decline in the price of oil, to less than half of what it was before, therefore the demand, for dollar is high and it's not available. We have depleted our reserves from about 60 billion to about 28, 23 billion today. Therefore, the supply of dollar has been compromised because of the various factors. And therefore, it needs not just the monetary policy, but also the fiscal policy that has to back it up.
Can we talk about the factors when you say it's been compromised because of various factors? What are these factors?
For example, when you talk of the budget not being in place, it means government expenditure has been constrained over that. Then the economic activity that will generate employment, that will enable the factories to be working, are compromised. Revenue generation is affected. So all this must be taken into consideration when you want to have a stable macroeconomic situation.
And so, which of the revenue generation aspects, internally or the
for example, for the oil revenue we have said is declining.
Yeah, we've seen that.
At the same time, the economy is not working because the budget is not in place. There's those who are waiting, for the implementation of the various projects from which the government will spend, which will create employment, which will create economic activities. They are not there yet. So I think we should look at it more in a holistic fashion, rather than just picking out, the monetary policy alone. I think we should look at everything in totality. The question of confidence in an economy on its own drives the direction.
Now,
it's only very recently when the presidency finally no devaluation. Therefore, he has given instruction. A direction in which the economy want to move. Therefore, the central bank, with the Ministry of Finance and the other economic ministry, will now have to put in place the necessary measures to support the direction in which the president had given.
Mr. Ogunjobi, when you started, you said there's really, it'd be difficult going forward without hindsight. Can we just look back again? In 1971, you talked about having a convertible currency and the state of the economy.
Yeah.
But the processes from 1971, this is 2016.
Yes.
Would you say that the processes have changed in any way?
Oh yes, it has changed positively and progressively. I recall when I was talking to you, the way we determined the Naira exchange rate at that time was based on a basket of currencies of our major importers from the countries where we import. And I was part of the team at the time that used to do it on every morning, but there was no computer. At that time, we were trying to do the calculation ourselves through the small calculators. Today, the economy, they have sophisticated programs in place in which overnight you could get all your information on the internet. I think the processes have changed. The central bank has developed, considerably, from what we had before. The economy has changed, tremendously. So I think we cannot compare directly, what has happened in those days and what we have today.
What I'm going to is this. If at that time,
Yes.
Those who looked at the currencies, at the exchange rate at that time,
Right.
and the level of the economy, the Nigerian economy is blossomed.
Right.
But the exchange rate seemed to be worse than it was at that time. So they will ask, if we have moved forward positively, then what made the difference that we have such a huge gap between the dollar and the Naira?
Well, I think you will see the value of the dollar today, which is nearly, depending on if you are in the black market, and the official rate is 197 of the actually, and over 300 Naira to the dollar. This situation has changed tremendously because of the purchasing power, which has changed over the years. Today, the interaction of this economy compared with what with the international community, with the global economy, completely different from what we had at that time. And I feel that it is not a question of blaming this thing. And what you say, your level of reserves at that time may not be as high as it is today. But then the relations were completely different.